State Commissioner of Public Lands, Hilary Franz, in the house this morning. Thanks for coming in this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You were here for a purpose. Boy,
Yes,
we got a big fire burning right now. I guess we'll start it off. First of all, you're going to be holding a press conference later today. Tell us kind of what the message is, if you don't want to give away the whole message, but tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm here right now. This is our most significant fire we've had to date this year. It's just a little bit less than 60,000 acres. We've had over 1,000 families evacuated. We've lost some structures. I'm here basically to meet with some of the families that have been really impacted by the evacuations and this fire, and also meet with the firefighters on the front lines. We do have good news, and we've gotten 10% containment of this fire after fighting it for a number of days. It's been a hard one, and while 10% is still not enough, it has been a lot of work to even get to that level.
Is it a matter of terrain? Is it a matter of the amount of fuel? What's the
Wind.
The greatest contribution? The wind is just
first and foremost
pushing
it's the
ahead
wind.
of our ability to stay with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have hot, dry fuels on the ground. We know that. That's prime condition for a fire. But when you add the wind and how this wind has been whipping around, it makes it very, very difficult to fight these fires. We brought in all of our air resources to put on this fire to get containment of it, but it is difficult when it's constantly moving and how volatile it is.
You know, I'm wondering about resources. We have enough. We need more. I mean, if we're the only really big fire we're burning here, can we just get everyone on this thing? Is that kind of the plan right now?
Yeah. So first of all, we do have everything we got on this fire right now.
Yeah.
It is not always the case that we only have one fire burning. We've already
Yeah.
to date had over 783 fires this year. We've had some significant ones in the northeast part of our state as well as other parts of our state. And so people might think we're not having a fire season at all. We are. We're leveraging everything we got. Our big challenge usually in situations like this is we start to compete with California and Oregon. As we know, California is in a very tough situation. We brought in a number of aircraft from Montana, just came in yesterday to help with support, but the fact is we could always use more resources. The more resources we have, the more we can get on those fires quickly, the more we can knock them down, the more we can get people back in their homes.
In this kind of fire setting, what's the most effective tool? Is it like bulldozing lines? Is it airdrops? What does the most good?
It's multiple things. I would say air resources. We have really leveraged initial attack. You know, after the 2014, 2015, 2016 fires, we realized we lost a huge amount of land. We lost lives tragically, as people will remember. We were not leveraging our air resources. Coming in, this is my 4th year now, I said we are going to pummel those things with the air resources, everything we have. When you're able to do that, you're able to get containment quicker and more rapidly, and also make it more safe for our firefighters on the ground to come in, especially in tough conditions, whether it's the terrain or whether it's the wind and the fast, rapid movement of those fires. We have beefed up our air resources through the legislature helping support growing and expanding our resources, but we are still small. We have about 10 helicopters. Every single one of them fought in the Vietnam War. Every one of them has the bullets to show it. And our mechanics put them together. They're amazing mechanics. But 10, when you're seeing the kinds of fires we have in every corner of the state, isn't enough. And so we've been leveraging other resources. We have air resources on contract. The challenge we have in this situation is when our fire season starts to truly heat up, California is in full bore. You got Colorado, you've got Montana, you got Wyoming, you got Oregon, Alaska last year, 2 million acres burned, right? So we begin to compete with national resources, and that's why we have to be more dependent on ourselves and have these resources in this community, in this state. And that's what I've been fighting for every single day.
Yeah, I mean, since 2018, that was a terrible fire season. But boy, it seems like 2018, you really pushed the legislature for extra firefighters. What, like a $55 million budget?
Yes,
right.
That's right. So in 2018, we had 1,850 fires, most Washington State has ever had on record. We had 440,000 acres burned, and that sounds horrible, but if you look at 2015, we had 1,600 fires, and we had 1 million acres burned. The difference between those 2 years, where we had more fires in 2018 and more geographical area of the state, was initial attack and leveraging those air resources and fighting. As soon as smoke was in the air, our planes were on them, and we were helping contain it. We also worked better with our local firefighters. And the legislature saw that change.
Yeah.
They realized that
Yeah.
this is an agency that if we have the air resources, right, and we have more ground troops, that we will be able to fight these fires more effectively. And we proved it.
And we've got a couple of helicopters that were stationed right here. That wasn't ever happening before, right? And
right.
what difference do the 2 helicopters that are here in Yakima? What difference does that make?
Huge. In a fire, time is everything.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you have wind, right? The moment smoke's in the air, if we can get air resources on it and we're not having to do 4 to 6 hours travel time, whether it's engines or helicopters. So we pre-positioned our air resources into those areas that we know are more likely to see fires. And we can move them around as changes in weather condition patterns happen. And so pre-positioning means that it's just a matter of minutes or seconds. They're up in the air and they're fighting this with the smoke.
I don't want to be Mr. Irony here, but in a state called the Evergreen State, run by a governor whose whole look at life is through climate and preservation and all of that, why don't we have a fleet of the latest helicopters to keep the Evergreen State green? What do they what's a helicopter cost?
So, so a Vietnam War helicopter.
Long time ago now.
We get them provided to us through surplus through the Army. It takes a little less than $1 million to put them together and make it a firefighting resource, right? If you're adding on a brand new one, we're talking many, many millions of dollars, right? And so
there was a time in our state when we had many, many
Absolutely.
millions of dollars in the kitty
So
just hanging out.
So I'll tell you what now in this role and having served in it almost 4 years, the biggest challenge in Washington State is we wait until we are well within a crisis before we start to truly invest in the problem. Right? We spend too much time in a reactive state in the midst of that crisis, now smoke and flames responding. It's always going to cost more. It's going to cost more in dollars, it's going to cost more in lives, and it's going to cost more in our economy when we're in a reaction state. The key is to be proactive, have the resources up front. That means not only the air resources and the firefighting resources, right? It also means getting at the root of the problem, which is we have a forest health crisis here in Washington State, and our forests are burning up. The Evergreen State is turning brown and then charcoal black in front of our eyes. My whole goal is we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it regardless. And the question is, are we going to pay to react? Or are we going to pay to be proactive, invest up front, get the resources in that community for firefighting at the local level and the state level? And are we going to invest in the root of the problem, which is actually making our forests resilient to fire, which they naturally can be if we do the right management.
Well, that investment has a payback in the quality of the force and what we're able to do with it.
Yeah,
so that's, you read my mind, and I guess everybody's mind, because that's the next logical thing. So what's the problem in terms of what needs to happen legislatively or in the governor's office to be able to do some of the proactive forest management things that will keep a healthy forest?
So we are taking steps. When I came into office, I recognized that we were consistently really investing on the reactive state versus proactively. Within 8 months of me being in this role, we developed the first ever forest health plan for Central and Eastern Washington, where we recognized that 2.7 million acres of forest in the central and eastern part of the state were dying. Half of that is federal land. And then we developed the first forest health plan that now has us committed to treating 1.25 million acres of forest over the next 20 years. It's about 70,000 acres a year. We aren't just treating state lands because we know that fire moves, right, and disease moves across the landscape.
Look, there's a border. We'll stop now.
Right,
Doesn't work that way.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we signed an agreement with the federal government that has us doing projects on federal lands so that because we can do it more effectively and efficiently. I got boots on the ground, cross over the line, go get the work done. To give you a context of why 70,000 acres is a big number, I would love it to be bigger, but let me just, between 2005 to 2012, our agency, our state, treated 30,000 acres in 7 years.
Jeez.
Okay? First year of doing this, we got 35,000 acres after we developed this plan in the very first year. Next year, 50,000 acres. We're moving to 80,000 acres, and my goal is to actually beat that 20-year goal because we are right now competing against time. The challenge we have is getting the legislature to support and fund this work. Fund not only the fire resources we need, right, at the local and state level, but also the forest health resources. We've been fortunate to secure some money. We've got $17 million in the forest health side over the next biennium. and we got 33 million in the firefighting resources. But we know that this is a 50-plus year problem that we are trying to accelerate the work. And here's the thing. We've got to make the issue of forest health and wildfire matter to every single leader in every corner of the state. This is not an Eastern Washington issue, right? You're seeing this smoke, right? This isn't new for you guys, right?
No.
It is not. You see it every single year. This is what a regular summer looks like.
Yeah.
The west side of the state didn't actually catch on to how significant fires were until the 2018
2
year
years ago,
where we had the worst air
Yep.
quality in the world from Spokane to
Yep.
Seattle,
Yep.
right? It didn't matter to them until they were impacted. We have to start realizing that if any part of Washington state is hurt environmentally with smoke, right? Air quality, fires, evacuations, hurt economically, it impacts every single one of us. And we have to start to own the care and communities in every single part of our state and say it's all of our problem. How do we solve it together?
KIT News Time is 7:56. We're talking to State Commissioner of Public Lands, Hilary Franz. So are we talking about disease or does the disease cause the slash that burns in the forest, this slash that's in the forest, or are those two separate issues?
Yeah, so basically what happens, our forests naturally can fight fires. I mean, before us humans were walking this earth, fire has been, if you went back 300, 500 years, we've had 1 million acre fires in the Seattle, 1 million acres burned in fire in Seattle.
Wow.
Naturally. 300 to 500 years ago. That's just natural, right?
They found dinosaurs, Lance, with those funky red hats on. They actually have found some skeletons
So
like that.
fire is natural in our forests. What is not natural is the density that we have in these forests, right? Because usually what happens is fire comes in and it removes the weak, it removes the smaller diameter, allows the larger, healthier trees to get larger and healthier, right? But because our forests have gotten very, very dense, right, and they're competing for less water and they're competing against each other for the nutrients they need in the sunlight, right, they're all weak. So all it takes is a disease, an insect that comes in, right, and it starts to take out the weak and then it just spreads. Now you bring in a flame, whether it's lightning or some other spark, it is going to take out everything that is weak, but the intensity of that fire will also take out the healthy. That's why you see those charred, burned out stands, right, where there's not even a living tree anywhere in it. It's because the heat and intensity of that fire grew so significant because there was so much fuel of dead, disease, weak trees. Wow. So what we're doing is you go in and you remove the dead, disease trees. You remove the smaller diameter trees. You get the spatial density that is more natural in that forest, and those forests can actually fight fire on its own.
Well, we're just about out of time. Thank you very much for your informative information, great information, and we just hope that all the firefighters are safe on the fire lines and that you bring them some good news and bring everybody good news. If not today, in the next couple of days with full containment, I hope,
That's our hope. We want to get the families back in their
Yes.
homes. We want to make sure our firefighters can
Yes.
get home safely, and we can also restore this air to clear blue skies back to you guys.
Two quick last questions. One, I understand that 70 sounds better than 35. In a perfect world, if you could write the budget that you think we need right now, I mean, how far are we from the current reality and the desired reality, truly?
So truly right now we are getting in the budget at best about on a good biennium 50 million. But with COVID now and the significant budget shortfall, we are going to probably be fighting for every dollar we can get for forest health and fire.
Gotcha.
Truly fighting for it, right? We need over $65 million if we are truly going to consistently expedite our forest health work. So we are getting on the ground and restoring the health of those forests and creating jobs.
Right.
That's the thing about it, is we can restore this economy
Bingo.
and this forest if we have the money to do this work, right? And we can prevent it going up in smoke and flames. We can prevent the evergreen state turning charcoal black.
Last question. Ryan, could he pass a dendrology test if I gave him one right now? I have a history of wildlife management. Dendrology, I could ask him like 6 questions. Do you think he could answer a good dendrology test
I will
right now?
always put my money on Ryan every single day.
Ryan, for that, I don't even need to ask the questions. That's good enough for me, sir. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate
Honor.
it.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
You bet.
Thank